This is episode 2 of Benny's Booth with one of the top audio engineers in Nashville. I hope that you learned something and just feel like you're hanging with your buddies in Music City. Let's jump in. Welcome, guys, to another episode of Benny's Booth, and today we've got my good friend Dallan Beck. Dallan, thank you for being here with us.
Thank you for having me, Benny.
Dallan is an audio engineer, and I'm going to have you define that because for some reason, people know about producers sometimes. We've heard of Benny Blanco, David Foster, Rick Rubin. You know, we've even heard of songwriters, but if you ask someone to name some of the big engineers, you're not going to hear Bruce Swedien, Al Schmidt, Chris Lord-Alge, unless you've learned about these things. But when you learn about them, you realize these people are kind of more important than everybody else. They're kind of the unsung heroes of music production, is the guys behind all the recording equipment and then the mixing and the mastering. And so we'll go over what those things are because I didn't even know. It took me the longest time to figure out the difference between production and engineering, especially because no one taught me. But you hear people going, well, this song's about to get mixed. And you go, what the heck is that? But then you hear it and then you go, well, that sounded better. So how are you doing? And what is an audio engineer?
Ooh, no, doing fine. It's a bit early in the morning here in Nashville, but it's a beautiful day, but friggin' cold, as it probably should be, right? Because we're in March, but been just unreasonably warm, which has been awesome. No, you're 100% right in the fact that it's unsung because it's kind of the behind the scenes.
Yeah.
The way I was kind of mentored was it's what they call servant mentality, right? So engineer is there to serve the producer. Producer's supposed to be there to serve the artist. Mm-hmm. So everyone is kind of just trying to make sure the next person above them or even just around them that they are able to do their job well. When I do my job well as an audio engineer, you don't know I'm there. So it's friggin' depressing. No. So it is just like, if I'm invisible, I did great. And so you have to have that mentality that you don't need the attaboy, pat on the back. The fact that I'm even here in this room, just crazy to me. You know what I mean? Because I've just kind of put my mind to, you don't know who I am. You don't need to know who I am. How does it sound? Yeah, I'm an integral part of it, but none of the accolades, none of that, because all those other positions are just so much more visible. Mm-hmm. And everyone gets bored with engineering stuff. You know what I mean? When you talk to a producer and you get there, if you interview them or talk to them, the stories are absolutely amazing. Mm-hmm. You talk to an engineer and he's like, this one knob wasn't turning right. And everyone's like, no one wants to hear that. So I think that's the other side. I mean, we're way more technical now than when I first started out so many years ago, where everyone's into technology. And with it being so pervasive with computers and stuff, younger kids are engineering. So I think that helps, but there isn't a lot of information to define the two different lines between engineering and production. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people are just doing both. Mm-hmm. But for me, it's like two different hats or two different parts of the brain. So it's important that if you are going to do both, and a lot of people do, that, you know how to kind of pivot between, okay, my engineering brain needs to come on. Oh, wait, my production hat needs to come on. Mm-hmm. When I work with you and you produce, it really lets me just settle into engineering. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm staring at a screen. I'm listening for, the tiny, minute details that no one cares about, but only because I know you're taking care of what I would call the bigger picture. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? If there was just an engineer and no producer, it would be very bland music. We'd be missing the entire point of it, but it would be recorded well.
Yeah, I think the only concept I had for an audio engineer was the crusty, angry sound guy from like the live music venues growing up, right? And they're always mad about something.
Now, help me out with that, because it's not so much like that in the studios, but live sound, and they call it a stereotype, but I swear 9 times out of 10, you could just go to a fair and you go, I know where the live sound guy is. Old and bitter. Just find old and bitter. That's probably the live sound guy. Thoughts on why it turned out that way?
I don't know. And the older I get, the more I like the old and bitter guys, to be honest with you. But that's the only concept I had for it. And then I knew that there was a thing called a recording studio, but I didn't understand that, there's all these different hats that will be worn by hopefully someone who's very trained, who's going to play recording engineer. So I kind of learned about that one. And then you realize that that's an art all its own. Because at first you think, oh, well, you're just putting microphones in front of something, but it does go a little deeper than that. So,
No, it does. And there's that kind of sharing of, back when I started, there were multiple roles for everything, right? So there'd be an engineer, there'd be an assistant engineer, which would be like the second. Then there'd be runners. And even though runners didn't do much with engineering, they took one of the roles away from the assistant engineer to have to worry about so they could focus on their side. And like I said, everything was so fragmented, you could focus 100% on this small duty.
Yeah.
Now, not so much. And the important part, though, between like producer and engineer is the sharing of it. Like what should happen now is you should go, man, I just want a really big guitar sound. It's not your job to go, hey, we're going to have to triple track it. We're going to have to use these microphones. We're going to have to use these things. You just have the vision of, I hear big guitars. But there are a lot of producers that they know how to get the big guitars, and the engineer just needs to follow through. And I'm always kind of, even myself, just learning, okay, what role is it today? How hands-on am I? How hands-off am I? How much am I going to be told how to do my job and then just do it well, which I have no problems with, versus, okay, I've got an adjective. I mean, the worst one time is, someone was like, I just want the guitars to be blue. And I was like, oh, man, this is not producing. Like, what do you mean blue? Do I get blue guitar? Do you mean blues? And then they couldn't define it. And I thought, oh, no, this is someone's cousin who got the gig, or someone's nephew. It's, but hopefully there's a bit between producer saying, I have this vision, and engineer going, I'll help you make that a reality.
I love that. There was a band that I'd sent you stems for, just a friend of a friend, and it was a killer band. They were like kind of metal guys, kind of classic metal guys. And I told them, you guys played your parts well, but it wasn't mixed well at all. And so this doesn't sound as good as it could. And they had a hard time understanding the difference between, the mixing process and the production and recording process. And the question kept coming up, well, do you think if we would have recorded this better, then we wouldn't need this additional step of mixing? That kept being the question. Well, do you think it's because we didn't record it better? Do you think it's because the producer didn't know what he was doing? They just kept trying to understand, why do we need to do this thing called mixing? So how would you answer that question for them?
Yeah, and it was funny. Yesterday I had some of the kind of the same question, but it was between mixing and mastering. And almost is this a put on? Is that really a separate step? And it's like, oh yes, no, it really is. Yeah, no matter how well you record something, mixing is just, it's integral. But I'm just wondering the live mentality. Hey, if I just play really well, the front of house guy doesn't seem to be doing that much. And even when I do live sound, I am not that at all. Like I am actively writing faders, changing things to go, hey, each part in the song needs to sound good. A lot of live sound guys, again, it's just like once they get it set up, they're like, yep. That kind
Just
of thing.
coast.
I wonder if that's where that comes from. But yeah, no, mixing is just super important, but it's hard to explain. You could record it well, but that's just feeding the machine. It doesn't kick out to your speakers, to your ears, to your clients or your fans just because you put it in that way. Yeah, that's.
And so when you're mixing, what are you doing? Is it just setting the levels of instruments? Or are you just panning things left and right? Are you adding effects, or is that the producer's job? What are some of the things that happen in mixing traditionally?
And so, again, only speaking from my experience, and there's so many different ways this could go, but I now will take a step back from that. So the first thing I do is fix. A lot of times I'll get tracks and they're just not ready to be mixed. They've been tracked, but they've left in not cool things on purpose. I'm okay with that. And not, groove or feel, but things that just clash, parts that aren't right, things that are just out of tune and they don't realize it, guitar player grabbing on things. And so I go, hey, first, let's just make sure each one of these tracks on its own sounds like it was meant, it was finished. Hey, it's meant to be there. If we can get past all that, then trying to make it all work together, the problem is it's not just like a 5-piece band anymore. Some people put on, layers and layers of guitars and keys, vocals, and then you go, for me, it's a Rubik's Cube. I know it's an old term, but it's just everything is out of place when you bring the faders up, so to speak. Like, you get the drum, you can just put some faders into position, but then you go, where does everything live? And then that is, like when I work with you as a producer, what helps me not have you have to tell me what to do until the end. If I can save you the time of telling me every step, do you like how loud this snare is? Do you like this bass level? I say, give me a reference or give me what I call bookends. Give me music that would be playing before and after it. And then I'm going to kind of pretend I'm you with your ears in your direction and try to put it in that sonic space. So when it comes to effects and stuff, if you don't give me a reference, then now I'm producing because I'm going, okay, this is going to be really wet vocal, really loud vocal. This is going to be really wide. But your reference as a producer just helps me do the work until I get it to a point where I go, okay, now my ego has to take a massive back seat and I have to go, how'd I do? And then you go, okay, this is what I'm liking, not liking. And I love working with you because it is such it's sad to say, but it's a real kind of a moment where you're kind of really vulnerable because you can easily just come back and go, nah, I don't like that. And you can say that. And then I'm all friggin' butthurt and all that. Right. And we don't have that. So it's that thing where you go, okay, what I wanted was, but it's just me kind of, hopefully I'm going to say it, rabbit holing. Sometimes I'll be looking at it so close, I forget when you get to hear it and you haven't now heard it 150 times like I have over and over and over, I start to lose the plot. You're hearing it with fresh ears. Now you say, yeah, this is just sitting too hot. Or even when I work with you, it's like you still have someone you're working for or working with. And that's the artist. So now you're like, ooh, I got to balance all 3 of these and try to find out where they go.
Yeah. And so you take the step that I really like in general is you tend to commit the first version of the mix very strongly to whatever the aesthetic is, So if it's wet, it's wet. If it's going to be kind of hot rodded, it's hot rodded. That way we know right away if we like that direction or not. So is that something that you learned to do just from? I
was so glad. I was going to interrupt you. I was like, I never did that. It was always, I'm going to vanilla everything. And then you get that kind of, and you're like, okay, well, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be that guy, but I'm a middle child people pleaser, right? So you're like, I want everyone to be happy. And that just can't happen. So I was having a talk with one of your clients last night, and I just said, I'm going to do what I do, but with the understanding that, I need to hear your feedback on it. You're not going to hurt my feelings, but if I don't kind of commit to what I think needs to be done, if I halfway it, then I'm not giving you stuff to work with, and I've got to be okay if I hot rod it, and you're like, no, even if you say, hey, I told you to do that, but I'm hearing it now and I'm not liking it. Yeah, let's change direction. Before I would think, well, I don't want to put a whole lot of time into this. So let me just go halfway on everything. No one's ever happy. Everyone's just kind of like, like you said, boring.
Yeah. And then there's the very real process of you almost don't want to be someone's first audio engineer, someone's first producer or whatever, because they don't understand the process. And there's going to be a lot of friction that happens because of that, right? So one thing that's not understood is that there's this process of revisions that happen. Typically, when you've gotten a production or even a mix, you're going to ask for different requests, but sometimes people feel, especially if they're new, like if you didn't nail it, it's because you suck at your job.
No, but internally, that's how I feel. You still want to, even if I am behind the scenes and all that, I want to succeed at everything. Kind of pulling in the singing success thing, right? That feeling of success is so important, and it's that validation. I would get text messages after saying a mix, and it's stupid. To this day, I'll go, I need a few moments before I can look at this. Because either it's going to be thumbs up, great job, or it's going to be, well, here's a list of things we need to fix. But it's just a work order at that point, right? It's not a condemnation of here's what you did wrong. That's exactly how I feel. And I had to get over that real quick because that doesn't allow the producer, the artist, anyone to feel like I can voice my opinion on something that really is like more important to them than me. You know, producers' careers sometimes are on the line. Artists' careers, definitely. Everything they put out, it's you know, a signature of who they are. I've done so many recordings and so many editings and done so many records. Doesn't matter. I'll just look for the next one, you know? So I want to make sure, it's always going well for everyone above me.
A couple of years ago, you told me something that was so liberating, you know, as someone who's extremely analytical, and also just misguided. So it was something production based. I was looking for the perfect effect for it. And then you go, well, you know, there's kind of an infinite number of good decisions you could make as far as effects. And I went, never thought of it that way. I go, wait, I thought there was either the right choice,
The one.
or just terrible garbage music. That was which is embarrassing now to think, like, why did I think that way? But you just think there's the one or everything else sucks. And that's not the case
No.
at all.
And for me, that came from, you know, listening to records when I grew up. You only heard the one version of the song. And so there was a version that you knew of. Everything else was going to be inferior to me. Like, even when I would watch the bands play live, it was just a bad version of the record, or I'd watch an acoustic version. Okay, it's just a, not bad, lesser version.
Yeah.
But that's not true. When you kind of get behind the scenes, then you realize this could have gone 100 different ways, and the way that I committed to became the good way. And now I remember that conversation, and it's hard because then that kicks your ego has to kick back in to go, yeah, I feel confident I'm picking one of the good 100 ideas.
Yeah.
And there's so many, it just feels like, really? And it's like, yeah.
And so given that, I think when there's different iterations of a mix, it could just simply be that, right? Swapping it between different good options for a mix, right? So it's
Absolutely.
that same thing of there's not a right or wrong here. It's just about what aesthetic you're going for.
Yeah. And I've seen sometimes we'll have, you know, mix 1A is where I kind of start, and we'll get way down the rabbit hole, and then we go back to mix 1A. So I start to realize too, this is people sometimes needing to hear, they have to have the comparison. Is this the best version of it? I don't know. I need to hear another version. And what I never let anyone hear is, here are all the sucky versions before the one I give to you. When I have mix 1A, someone's like, wow, this is your first try at it? And I was like, oh no. No, everything that I've done that are mixes, they don't even get letters and numbers anymore. They're bounced somewhere, but I won't confuse them with anything. And when I do a 1A, 1B, 1C, that's me then second guessing myself afterwards going, man, I don't even stand behind this. Okay, let me go 1B, 1C. And very rarely has it ever, hey, I should have given you 1A. 1C was always better, and then they become 2A. Whatever you had decided was missing or something was there that shouldn't have been, it's, this isn't something I was even thinking about, so.
Now, just in general, not talking about anyone specific, because there's so many different examples, but in general, has anyone ever asked for revisions of a mix that made it worse?
Oh, yes. But I love those. No, before you can finish, yes.
Yeah.
No, but then I go, and I'm just getting old. I know it is. It's why I let myself go gray for this one. I'm like, I'm going to stop fighting it. Define worse. Because I was having, it was a discussion with a client, one of your clients yesterday. And I said, listen, I do hear some things when people don't know what they're doing and they are just walking right off the cliff.
Yeah.
Right. Like the client the other day was like, well, I know these aren't mixed, but I'm not sure if they need to be mixed. And you're like, no, you are not like, you're not breaking new ground by going, hey, how about we just cut out a bunch of steps, right? But at the same point, I always go back and I go, you know, Hendrix was poking holes in speakers to get distortion. Up to that point, not really a sound. How many people went to him and was like, yeah, that's the right thing to do? They probably went, like, you're an idiot. What are you doing? And now every amp on the planet, except for some, you know, fully clean amps, all have a distortion sound.
Yep.
So then I the minute I go, is it worse or is it something new that I am uncomfortable with? 99% of the time it's worse.
Yeah.
I can't say it though. I can't say it's not my role. I got to go, okay.
Yeah. One question that I learned to ask people is just this. Is there a single person who exists in the world who you trust more than yourself?
Woo.
Yeah. Is there a single person who could tell you that maybe you're wrong about this? And that's an uncomfortable question to ask, but sometimes people need to be given this thing called perspective, you know? So I 100% believe in holding on to your convictions about what the music should sound like. However, artists can get lost in the weeds just as much as any other person involved in the music production process.
And I mean this honestly, never with you. I know I'm going to say this and you're going to go, is he doing this to me? Never with you. I've never had to. We've had a great, honest relationship. And even when you say, do this revision and you're like, no, I don't like it. You're honest with yourself going, hey, I'm not doing this just because I'm telling you what to do. I need to hear it. And then when I hear it, I go, let's bump it back. But when I know someone is just off kilter, I'll just send them the same mix a second time. I will put different letters and numbers and I'll go, if they come back to me and go, so much better, then I go, okay, you can't even hear that I just sent back the exact same mix. Now I know there's an insecurity telling me to do things, or someone told you to do it, or you watched a video, or you Googled something, and you wouldn't even know it if it hit you in the ears. Oh, this is a bad place because this is me chasing you, chasing the internet or your neighbor. You know.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I love that. And I have heard that from so many engineers, by the way, and producers, that they'll kick back the same exact track, the same exact thing with a different
Just
letter.
name it different.
Yeah. And they go, oh, wow. You know, and so really what you're doing then is just helping them keep the good version, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're trying to stop them from ruining the thing that already sounds good. Because to be fair, because we're having fun here, laughing about it, but to be fair, artists have to worry about a whole bunch of other things that the writer and producer and engineer don't have to worry about, right? They're thinking about their persona and their image and their brand, and they really are the ones who are going to get judged on that piece of work much more than anyone else. And it's not a good look for an artist to blame somebody else in the process for why fans aren't loving the music, right? That would just make them look worse. So, excuse me, just burped into the mic. I have to cut that out. Burp mic. So, to be fair, sometimes those are the things that are going through their heads. And so they're not listening to the music objectively, or sometimes they're not giving themselves permission to just enjoy what they're listening to, right?
Yeah. Sometimes it's a control issue. Definitely a lot of psychology behind it. Like there's some people have trouble finishing things. So you're doing revisions just because there's this lack of commitment. Because once they commit, like you said, now the judgment comes in. And so if they're still working on it, then we're not able to judge it yet because it's not fully done. And then really like they can't pass the buck. It's not a good look. And really the buck stops with them. So that's why I understand the pressure that they're under, or they put themselves under and then push on me. But I just kind of let them know I'm trying to make the best version of you as well, based on discussions we already had. Like I'm not really a good mix guy that someone's just like, here are the files, go mix them. I think I'd be just not very good at it. I'd have to have a discussion with them first. I don't have to meet anyone in person, but I don't know how many clients you've sent me phone calls. And I mean, I'll spend an hour on the phone with them. Why? Okay, let's develop this relationship so I can understand better how you look, how you think, how you feel. What's your musical background? What are your influences? What do you want to do with this music? That helps me then when I make a version of it. I'm not making my version. I'm trying to make the best version for them.
Sure. And you're such a humble guy, Dallan, because I think you could elevate the mix without ever having a reference. Even you really could. And I haven't said it yet. I'll make sure to include it in the thing, but you've got a lot of very high level clients. So you've obviously proven yourself. And I didn't tell you this because I forgot, but Brett played for me the song that Caleb did with you, and I was so blown away by it. The writing was impressive, the production was really impressive, but the sound quality of it all, I mean, you made him sound like a superstar. It was insane, and it made me feel the way I felt the first time. And I'm not trying to be sacrilegious here by comparing him to someone, but an icon, but made me feel the way I felt when I first listened to Jeff Buckley, where I go, whoa, this is haunting and cool. But again, not to compare it to Jeff Buckley, but with the modern mixing conventions, it's a fuller sound than the Jeff Buckley records. It's full spectrum. You've got, the lows hit harder, the brights are more sparkly, the high frequency thing. So yeah, and that was all you.
Well, and then there it is again. As soon as you're saying it, I'm like, I knew Caleb when he was not a baby, maybe 1-2 years old.
Yeah.
And then Brett, you know how many times he would play phone videos? He's like, hey, do you know he's taking up guitar? Like, I don't spend a whole ton of time with Brett. He's really busy. But when I do, we get really personal all the time. And so the first time Caleb then came in the studio, it's like, I've already spent at least 20, 30 hours with you without you even knowing through your dad. So of all the things that turned out well with that, the one that kind of caught me and I was like, oh, was the haunting part, where that was his intention. Let me go for that. The sonic part, okay, that just has to be. But if I don't get the haunting apart, no one's going to go, wow, what a great low end on. Like, it just, they're not. But if those technical parts are missing, then you're like, yeah, for some reason it didn't hit me either. The best part is, even with Caleb, like I said, I've known him since he's been a little kid. He was so comfortable coming over. I got 100% of Caleb singing. And we were like, let's have you play on it. Normally I'd get session guys.
Yeah.
Let's have you play on it, but let me help you to make sure the part sounds like a session guy did it. And don't get me wrong, the session guys, phenomenal. Like, a guy just sits down and plays and you're like, I really would take my guitars and just throw them in the dumpster. You're just like, I'm never going to do this. But they're also doing everything every day. So they have so much signature stamp. So if I put them on some record, I'm getting that stamp. I'm really interested now on someone who isn't that well versed, but understands we may have to punch chord by chord here. You may have to let me go in and do my thing of putting it in groove, but you can play. You can't do a one passer like the session guys. And it's just going to sound a little different and it's going to sound more authentic and unique to you. If we can spend more time, then let's do that. He had his friend come down and play. And I was like, man, this is just your friend. Like, this is not what I do. But I went, if you guys will sit with me, let's do this again and just let me kind of arrange what you're doing now. The stuff that you don't have years of experience, just let me do that. I won't make you sound all cut up or Frankenstein, but if I just let you kind of have at it, it's going to sound freshman. But if you just let me do what I do and let me be quiet about doing it, then I'm really happy how that turned out too.
And you threw in all these little sentences that are deep wells. So editing is the term, right? That a lot of the time after recording, the first stage in mixing, you're not really mixing, you're just editing, right? Correcting things. You said if you can make it groove better, so you're kind of pocketing or truncating the parts, right? So is that something that because I've heard the answer to this, is that something that you sometimes might not tell the musicians you did or tell the artist that you did?
No. Yeah, don't tell them anything. It's so sad because even as you're saying it, when you say editing, now editing is starting to have a negative connotation. It didn't. It used to be crazy. Correcting. You hear someone say correcting and they just think you're going to make some robotic. And I was like, no, you're just out of time. And not like I've had way in my past. It was Dennis Chambers, drummer, Virgil Donati. These guys so much in control of time that I remember it's like if they want to lay back the snare, because they're like, hey, if I pull the snare back off the grid, there was no grid back then. He goes, but if I pull it back off the click, it's going to give this kind of just more angst feel to it.
Yeah.
But he would do it, if you could actually go look at it, it would be spot on every time pulled back.
No way.
What happens is that drummers are like, yeah, I'm just laying back. I'm like, this snare hit. The next one you were ahead of the beat. The next 3 you were on. The next 4 you were behind. And all random. But they've heard someone say, pull it behind. And I was like, first you have to be good at being on the beat. Then we can pull it behind. So when we say editing, now people are thinking, you're just going to put me to the grid. Like, I call it treatment. I'm trying to think of the word. Yeah, I just treat the vocal. Because right now, treatment, okay. But then again, maybe people think, you think my vocal's sick? It's like, no. So then I go, I can't tell you anything. I just have to say, yeah, you won't hear anything for a couple days. And when you do, my goal, can this sound like the best version of it? And so, to be honest, yeah, I will look at the grid. I will use math. But I am literally going 2 bars at a time and listening.
Yeah.
And then the next 2 bars and then listening. And so it doesn't matter what Pro Tools grid says. It doesn't matter what Melodyne says. Does this sound right? And then that's what takes me longer. I'm so far away, Benny, from all of the hyper fast stuff. Like Melodyne, just click that button, it'll put everything in tune. I was like, but that's what I don't want it to sound like. It's in tune.
Yeah.
I just want you to go like, I sounded really good. And it's like, yes, you did. And I'll have to tell someone like, they're like, it didn't sound that good in the headphones. That's my headphones. Yeah, my headphones while you're tracking, they're really rough on your ears. No, but I can't let them know because the minute it's like, hey, I had to fix, which is again, that word they don't want to hear. They just, they feel something's wrong, but it's like, no, this is my job. And for me, the best of the best, like some of these drummers, some singers even, they're so good at it. Their worst day is better than most people's best day.
Yeah.
And I've never gone like, yeah, he's too good. Yeah, he should be worse. He's played drums too long. He needs to back up and really, just throw things. It's like, no, I always love people who did stuff so well, and not for perfection's sake, but for, wow, just could really just play, and you forget about time and pitch and all it's just there. And but don't tell them. that would be my only advice. Because if you tell them, and you want to, because you want to go like, this is what I spent, when I'm doing bigger records, yeah, it'll be a full day, at least a full day per song. And that's just the instruments. If it's vocals, that's another full day, 2 solid days. The guy yesterday, he was like, can you mix this whole thing? What are we talking about? 2 hours? And I'm like, 2 hours, I'm still going through and fixing. But I can't tell him that. So I got to go, okay, I'm not going to get paid. And my wife hates this. She'll be like, I see you spent all this time. How much money did you make? And I'm like, yeah, but that's just not how this works. My job is to mix, and then the fixing part, unfortunately, that's kind of on me for a lot of things, just because the amount of time it takes.
And what you were talking about earlier, you can take any process and overdo it, right? You can overcook it. So what you were talking about earlier is when you're editing, you're not necessarily trying to make everything just perfectly on the grid or perfectly smack dab in the pitch center, but more of this philosophy of almost just make it 1% better. Is that kind of well, it depends too, because some things need to be like 100% better.
That is the problem. It's like, does it sound good now? And then it's only my perspective of good, because some people go, hey, that good sounds, really, really strict. Well, there's my favorite drummer that I work with here, his name's Tommy. When I had him in the studio the first time, kind of nervous, just ace session drummer, super nice guy. And so I'm down to the level as an engineer going, what type of click sound would be best for him? So being prepared for a session and now thinking, I have to have an arsenal of clicks so that when he says, here's what I want, I don't go, I'm not set up for that. Oh, I don't have that. Oh, I didn't load it in. The greatest answer was, how does that click sound to you? He was like the enemy. So didn't even care what click sound, but he understood, hey, this has to be here. We need a conductor of sorts.
Yep.
And again, his timing is amazing, but I got it. It was like, yeah, if I let him know I'm chopping him up, or I let someone like that know, hey, it doesn't matter how you play, I'm going to chop you up anyway. They're like, yeah, but you're not a drummer. Do you know when on purpose I'm trying to do this? And that was, again, the only thing that I really appreciate was years of being in the studio, being an assistant, being even just a runner, but listening to how this stuff all goes down and starting to appreciate, oh, that is good. Okay, that's the goal. And then later on, being able to see, oh, I can see good, but you can never forget, can you hear good? Because that's the problem. You can look at it and go, it's good because Melodyne Autotune says it is. And it's like, no, it just says it's in pitch or it's in time. That doesn't necessarily make it good. The bigger ones, though, like take drums, is so many people are using electronic elements on top of the drums and layers. So now we can't have this flamming. So yeah, your hi-hat seems a bit lazy, but unless the loops are all lazy. And then that's my discussion with the producer. I go, listen, we can't be mismatching, but you tell me, do you want to make everyone as loose as the drummer was? Because now we're all in time. Or do you want to make everything tight like this loop is? Now I'll move everyone to that tightness.
So to just go down that rabbit hole really quickly, I wanted to save this for later, but we're talking about it now. I saw Jack Antonoff breaking down his production of Sabrina Carpenter's Please, 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 and he said that, he wanted this kind of almost loose, whimsical analog drum groove. So someone played the groove kind of sloppily, but then he said there's still got to be this pop quality to it, a very strong backbone. So there was a perfectly gridded electric drum beat to it. So that to me sounds a little bit like a nightmare for the engineer. Like, how are you going to have both of these elements working together? And this is my ignorance, right? It's your expertise. My ignorance is, how the heck would you do that without all the flamming happening? And then I think back to Motown recordings, and there were instances where there's three drummers. Okay, I thought there were two.
No, up to three. I heard two, and then I was reading an interview or watching them, and they were like, three. And I was like, holy cow. Mainly two, though, right? Main beat fills. But then there was a third, and I forget how they broke them out, but I thought, if you can get three drummers to play, but do you know how great their pockets are together? To get two drummers to play at the same time can't be any two drummers. And then three, yeah, it would have to be people that they've done this together, or they are following the leader. Who's the leader? And usually that's the pocket guy. And then everyone goes, okay, I need to assume that kind of groove.
So then it's what Jack did for Sabrina's music, nothing new then. It's been a thing to have kind of two grooves playing simultaneously. But yeah, how would you do something like that where you want one of the drum elements to feel a little loosey-goosey and then one of them to be tight on the grid? How can you make both work at the same time?
And for me, it's just watching transients.
Okay.
Because the minute you don't have to worry about a transient hit. So if it's snare hits, but you've got kind of a washy snare without a big attack, that, as long as it doesn't have this huge transient at the front end, it doesn't have a specific moment in time. It has a placement in time. Now that goes back to there are 100 good effects.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be 0 on the grid. Like, I think human hearing, they say within 30 milliseconds, we will perceive flamming, right? So if I'm more than 30 milliseconds or more, everyone should perceive it. And then you get to drummers and people really pay attention, it tightens up. But that means if you look at a grid and if you draw in or highlight 30 milliseconds, it's a massive area when you zoom in. Okay, can we keep within that zone? Now we've got an area, like you said, where, hey, we're not all on, but we're not so far off that we're getting that. It just feels like we're fighting each other, as opposed to, wow, we're occupying more sonic space. And for me, unfortunately, it's always like the transient. So if I even need to smooth that out to make it a smoother sound with a more percussive one, then it allows those things to live, but not live perfectly on top of each other. Where, yeah, sometimes they'll just kind of phase out and you don't even realize the sonic difference. I love that approach of, you would hear both more if they weren't perfectly on top of each other. Otherwise, you're hiding one with the other. But yeah, and then that could be an editing, I don't want to say nightmare, but that would be editing now not to a point, but to an area.
So for someone like yourself who's been doing this at a high level for a long time, is the prospect of working on something like that exciting, or is it kind of just like, here's another gimmick? Obviously, you would never say, here's another gimmick,
No, but still exciting.
Okay.
Which is, I think it's the only reason why I know this is my calling, because I think I would have been bored or moved on. And so yeah, whenever those things come in, every once in a while, there's that anxiety. And really, though, the anxiety, to be honest, is like, am I going to do this well? As opposed to like, oh, I don't want to try this dumb idea. It's like, am I going to do this well? And then if I do it well and it doesn't sound good, is everyone going to realize that ain't me? Which may not be. I may be the scapegoat, but that's sometimes the worry too of like, wow, we're going to go do this and I can already tell you where this is going to end up, but not my call. Those are tough. Those are like, okay, this is work. Let me just do the work.
So earlier you mentioned the whole thing about extra hours that you might put into something, and that's the nature of a lot of music production work. And I've heard it from everyone, even writers, even the track guy in a writing session might stay after everyone has left to go, smoke cigarettes and drink whiskey. After everyone's having fun, they're still there trying to make sure the demo sounds right enough so that everyone's happy later. And they're not getting compensated any extra for that. They're not going to get a bigger split because of that, but they put in extra time. So that just introduces the whole topic of doing this as a career. So you've had a very cool career, and I continue learning more and more about it. I knew you had an educational background, but then we were talking maybe last year and you said that you wrote curriculum and published a book. So I know a lot of people watching this are either going to be new to the music industry and wanting to work in it. A lot of people move to Nashville or to a music city thinking that they want to be the artist. That's like the big dream, to have your name on the marquee. But then you discover all these other things, whether it's writing or production or engineering or something else. And you go, that actually looks like more fun to me. And I can do that as a job. So people watching this, I think some of them are trying to decide their next move. Musically, how can I work in something music adjacent that I love and make money doing it? I think engineering's a really, really cool route. It's always going to be needed. It's a very versatile expertise as well, because there's the live, the recording, and then there's music and there's film. But what got you into this?
Yeah, and so just as you mentioned, like I started out as a guitar player, and I entered a couple guitar competitions and won. So I thought, that's it. I'm going to be the next guitar god. Not so. But I was doing recordings on my little Fostex or Tascam 4-track. Then I moved to the 8-track, and I got lost in what I was doing in the recordings, putting in layers, hearing things. That became just as exciting as playing guitar. And so I followed that. And then that's what led me, and I still was like, hey, I'm still going to keep recording my stuff. I'm still going to do this, but I really enjoy the recording, love doing that. And that just led down its own path. And for me, sometimes I'm like OCD. And so, horrible way to explain this though, but again, I found myself being vice president of Musicians Institute. What am I doing as vice president? And it was like, oh, there's my flaw. I get into something, I enjoy it, and then I enjoy doing it well, and I stop to ask, is this what I want to do? So I thought, I play guitar, and there was no question. I just, love guitar. Yeah. Neighbor brought a guitar down one time, and that was it. Like he tried to show me a Smoke on the Water or Another One Bites the Dust. Tried to show me some riff on guitar, and that was it. I was like, this should be in my hands forever. Yeah. But obviously, making a living just playing guitar like that wasn't in my cards. Played in cover bands, but I'm in Illinois, like whatever. I wasn't as dedicated as I should be for that.
And that would have been obviously way past the Chicago music heyday. Oh yeah. Right. So it's not like you could have just gone to Chicago and there's a bunch of guitar jobs available or something.
No. Yeah.
Because at that point, had the migration happened to LA or?
Man, I took a job from the guy my mentor, like one mentor I've had my entire life, phenomenal guitar player, phenomenal singer, blah, 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 blah. But he moved to Los Angeles and he's like, hey, you're a really, really good guitar player. Do you want to take my students? So I was like, hey, I'm now going to make money teaching guitar. And again, music adjacent. I'm still making money. I'm still playing music, but yeah, paying all my bills, I'm teaching guitar. And then I realized this is kind of dead ending. Like, this isn't going to get any bigger, any better. So he's like, well, listen, you're in a small town in Illinois or suburbs of Chicago. Move to Los Angeles. Still thinking, yes, I could do this guitar thing. But always in the back of my mind, still recording, just loving recording. And then he moved into recording. And so being my, again, the mentor thing, he was like, hey, do you want to come here and, help me with this recording school? And I was like, oh, absolutely. I already have taught, so I understand that kind of idea, not on a, PhD level, but just vocational level. And then, yeah, I love recording. And then that was the most professional type of teaching. And that kind of took me off the path, I would say, because then it was like, hey, are the students happy? Is the school running well? And then it became running the recording school. And then,
sorry to interrupt, but how did you get into that job? Was it just, there was like a listing for...
Okay. So my mentor, and I won't even say, I want to say his name so bad because he will totally appreciate this. But anyway, he was if he had been my dad, if he would have, and he couldn't be, we're not that far apart in age, but he would be the guy that goes, you want to learn how to swim? No problem. I'll help you. And then you go to the pool or wherever, the lake, and you're like, okay, what do I do? And he goes, boom, and just kicks you in. And he's like, move. I remember, again, I understood recording. I knew recording, but he's like, hey, a position is opened up for teaching, recording, but teaching an SSL console. No idea. Here I am recording at home, and I had worked at a studio, but again, I was just like runner, kind of assistant in LA. So it wasn't like, yeah, I'm professional. And he's like, hey, do you want to come in and teach this? And it's like, well, first I got to learn it.
And so as a runner, though, you'd at least now been around the consoles?
Been around it.
Okay.
And because I'd worked with, again, a 4-track and 8-track, I understood signal routing, but on just the simplest of levels. And he's like, don't worry. I'm going to show you everything you need to know. I just need you to kind of fill in and do this. And so it was Friday. It was a Friday night. They were done teaching that day. Monday was going to be the day I had to teach. And I'm like, great. We're going to spend the whole weekend. I'm going to absorb this. And basically, I'm going to learn just enough to stay ahead of everyone. That's going to be my mantra. And if I can do this, then yes, I will continue to learn. And Friday comes in. He's like, here's the patch bay. Here's the console. There are wall boxes out in the room. Let's go to the bar. I was like, wait, what?
I like how this guy works, by the way.
We were there, and it was probably 30 minutes. It wasn't that fast, but it was like just when I was starting to write stuff down, he goes, let's go to it was the Rainbow at that point, right? He's like, let's get out of here. And I was like, oh no. And he just handed me the manuals. Now he's my mentor, so I can't go like, no, dude. Like, A, you have to show me. That's not going to happen. B, I can't go. So I have to go, be completely hungover. Then Saturday or Sunday, no joke, reading a manual going, I hope this does what it says it does. And so it was feet to the fire. And everything went well, but I started to realize, okay, unfortunately, it caused me so much anxiety, but I kind of work well like this. I've been used to this. Hey, you can over prepare, and I'm an over preparer. It's like you got to do it, but make sure you're prepared enough. That was, yeah. Oh my gosh.
How old were you at the time?
Man, I was 23.
So you were a young buck.
Oh, yes. I was younger than most of the students. I was like, oh, this is, and no credibility except, I could put some studios that I had worked at. But I looked at it and I went, oh, you need to know the technical parts about how this console works. Okay, I'm kind of technically minded. I think that's why the engineering thing agrees with me. I love producing, but I'm not as good at that. Like, that's not where my brain fires all the time. So it's like, yeah, it fires all the time with the technical stuff. So I was like, okay, yeah. And I'm like, how hard could this be? and then I started to realize, like, yeah, the manual is how the board was built, but then when it was installed, it's all custom. Oh, man.
So just a quick aside, but I love that you were 23 because a lot of people, you graduate from high school and some people go straight to college, some don't, but a lot of musicians don't because they know they want to pursue music and they don't have the clearest path as to how that's going to make money, but they don't care. They just love it that much. And so you're obviously in that category. You were thinking what, that you'd be the next Slash or something? Or who was your guitar hero?
So again, instrumental rock guys from Paul Gilbert.
Oh, yeah.
I was the shredder, that kind of thing.
So did you like Yngwie Malmsteen?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And I mean, would listen over and over and over. Like Tony McAlpine was one of the, guys who would listen to Yngwie and that. And then I just remember being in the studio and working on his record and just thinking, holy cow. But again, because my mentor failed to show up for the session. So I get a call. I shouldn't say it that way. He's like, it's 8:00. I don't feel like going in. Do you want to go in? And you're just like, to what? And he goes, don't worry. It's all set up and rolling. I did the first day. I'm just kind of burned out. And you're like, what? What? Like, what?
Oh, I love this so much because these are the stories that friends tell me who, have reached the next level of success, working in the music business, So a good buddy of mine was a stand-in for somebody else, and I hope to have him as a guest, so I don't want to burn the story yet. But basically, he was a stand-in for somebody else, and he killed it in the session, and now he's got this amazing job that he's been doing, and he's touring the world doing it. So it's so funny how often that happens, but yeah, I was 22 when I moved here.
Wow.
And kind of same. Well, I had a little more security because Brett had offered me a job, and I thought to myself, and a good friend, Jesse, who was actually a pastor at the church where I was working, he goes, you should do this. Just think about it. You can always come back, but I think you'll regret the decision if you don't go work over there and get that experience. And I thank him so much for that, because that was the little push it wasn't even a push. It was just encouragement. He was saying, this is really cool. This is something that you love. You've got this opportunity to learn under a mentor like your guy. We're so fortunate to have mentors, because some people try to do this without mentors, and it's really hard because a lot of your opportunities are going to come from your buddies who have gone before, and they like you for whatever reason, they want to help you out. So
networking, super important, but I'm definitely an introvert. And then mentor is networking. That was the thing of, I didn't have a mentor because I thought he's going to do something for me beyond just, if I was there for a guitar lesson, that was it. But yeah, without the mentor, I don't know how I get from A to C without B. So if you have a network, when we're talking about making this a career, if you have a network of people, then yeah, you don't need the mentor. I needed the mentor. Where I grew up, no one else was doing what I want to do. There was one other person. He became my mentor. And then when he would go off and do things like, and I really do hope, I love this guy. I hope he would look back and say, yeah, Dallan was a very good friend and a good mentee or whatever it is, right? Like, I would be mortified. I would be just horribly mad at myself if he was like, that dude was a leech. like
not a chance.
And I really, none of my thoughts were ever, hey, what are you going to do for me? What can I do? It was always like, how can I help you? I remember when it came time to run the school, again, had I run the school? No. Every night we would do what were called power walks. Dude, we were doing them around North Hollywood, and we were going into the bad areas. We were getting run out by gang members. That's how I knew we have walked too far. It was like, whoops, we would get lost in talking. Okay, what if we could do this? What if, and he was in charge, and I would feed him ideas. He would bounce them off me. I would organize them. No pay, no nothing. This was hey, I am learning at the feet of someone. And so then when it came time where he's like, can you do this? It was like, absolutely. If I hadn't to put in the time for no expectation back more than being his friend and going, hey, he needs this. And I can't do it, but maybe I can just help him. If nothing else, if he says something silly, he has to say it to me. He hears it rebound. He goes, it's a dumb idea. Or maybe at that moment, he was the one person that way light bulb for me. Maybe he trusted me more than he trusted himself for some things where he's like, I'm going to ask Dallan, because if he says it, I trust that he's the only advice on this subject that, I would trust more than my own. Because, when, in your own thoughts, like you said, there's no one to know, is this better or not? I hope I gave him great advice. And like I said, the school did exceptionally well. So I think so. But yeah, just.
Wow. So then how did that session go? So you said, was it 8 a.m.?
First album credit. Yes, survived. I can just say survival. But here's the best part. So I'm in there going, and it's me. I was never a Boy Scout, but I should have been, right? Because be prepared. Anytime I've worked with you guys here, it's like the day before I'm packing all my equipment. If I do any kind of live sound recording, I'm testing it before I go. Stuff is still going to mess up, and I don't want it to. I want to walk in, and you guys are just like, oh, he was here. Like I didn't realize it. If you know I'm here, it's because my gear is messing up or I'm messing up, right? So I need to be invisible. So in my mind, I'm over-preparing. So when I go into the session, unfortunately, where this all comes from, at any moment, I'm like, what if that goes down? What if, especially with consoles, every knob could get dirty, could have just dirt in it. And if you're recording, that we were recording to analog tape, digital tape. We were using a Sony 24 track, but it wasn't Pro Tools. There was no undos. So a mistake was permanent, especially punch-ins. I need to do a punch-in. If I punch in early, it never exists before it. If I punch out late, it's gone and they have to play it. I turned that into my first class where I was doing a class, and I call it the black hole. And I go, I grab my guitar and I'm like, hey, I just want to fix this one note. Invariably, a half hour later, I'm having to play the whole song again. Because if they don't know where the one note is, the proper error was punch in late, and yes, they're gonna make fun of you. Punch out early, and yes, they're gonna be mad at you. But at least we're still trying to fix the one note. If you get nervous and punch in early, now I've got to fix all that if I wasn't ready. And if you punch out late, someone's going to go, wait, I wanted to keep that. And we're not in Pro Tools or Logic, so there's no undo, there's no trimming back. So every moment, and again, this is called a cab album. So it's Dennis Chambers, Bunny Brunell on bass, and Tony McAlpine. And it's music, like I loved it. It was fusion, but good luck. Good luck. No pop songs, some songs 6 minutes long. Never heard any of the music because, again, it's brand new. I may have heard them all play in their own context, but you're just sitting there and someone's just going, hey, punch me in here. And you're like, where's here? And the charts then, they're not like the Nashville charts. They'd had full score or nothing. Guitar player, like he'd go, hey, punch me where I go, and you're like, which one? Which? Because I heard a whole bunch of but I'm a guitar player, so that I could do that. And the drums, I was like, I'm not a drummer, but I can I'm so hyper focusing and just stressing. What if I mess up the next punch? So for me, it went well, but only because I think I stressed about how many different ways could I screw this up.
That sounds so stressful.
No, so stressful. By the end of the day, like when I'm with you guys and we're doing long days, I have this energy from you guys. And I have to say thank you because it's synergy. If you don't have that energy, I can't borrow it. Or we can't build it together, right? If you guys were low energy, then there's nothing to share or borrow. But when I'm done at the end of the day, I crash so hard. I am so exhausted, as if I'd been to the gym, as if I'd been running a marathon. And I just go, my brain, just hyper overdrive. But I wouldn't have it any other way. It's just crazy.
Well, we are so fortunate to get to work with friends and people who become friends, because I look forward to any time we can work together in any capacity whatsoever. And same thing with Jordan, who's in the room. I'm just like counting down, when can we go to China again, just so we can hang out. And while we're there, we're going to complain, like, man, how's your stomach? Can you believe this food? But it's still fun. You look back and you go, that was a good time just hanging out.
There's this thing that I've fully experienced here. In LA, there were smaller circles, and then people inside of circles weren't genuine. So if I had a friend and he says, I have a friend, I don't know if their friend's going to be my friend, right? Just, it was so, whatever. When I came here, it's starting with Brett. He was the first person I met, but everyone in Brett's circle, you, Jordan, all the teachers, everyone, even Brett's friends, and then now down to your guys' clients. There's this beautiful, everyone belongs in the circle. And then it's not that I'm friends with everyone, even with clients, but I get to put the wall down and I get to go, I can fully enjoy this. Half of my brain doesn't have to worry, is this a problem? Is this a threat? Do I have to be careful what I say? And that makes this so much more enjoyable and makes me so much better at what I do, knowing, hey, they trust that if I'm doing something, I'm trying to make them better. And if they brought me here, it's because they think I can help with their process, as opposed to it's a job. I get paid, you guys get paid, and that's important. Otherwise, I couldn't pay my bills.
Yeah.
But I've never looked at it that way. Never. You guys have never made me feel that way, and that is just exceptionally rare. And that's the things, those are the little unicorns I think you've got to look out for in life. And you go, oh, you're around the right people when it's like that.
Well, it's a couple of things. I think it all comes from Brett as far as how we do things here. Brett is an insanely generous person, and he always errs on the side of treating people well, always. And so, we get that from him, of course. I'd like to say, we're also just those types of people, but, it comes from Brett, and then we're doing it. But you also just always go above and beyond. So when someone also just goes above and beyond, you're relaxed and you're having fun and you're chatting about nonsense just because things are going well. That is, though, I think the magic of Nashville, the whole Southern hospitality vibe and whatever. It's still here. And my experience meeting people here is I work for Brett, and that's what I tell them. And Brett's got an established reputation, so I know that has made people maybe have a more positive bend towards me some of the time. But even when people don't know who Brett is and definitely don't know who I am, still very kind people in Nashville compared to the nightmare stories that I've heard of people in Los Angeles and New York. And 10 years ago when I moved here, the cost of living was a lot lower. I think it still probably is, but it's inflation has gone nuts here. So it is, if a musician moves here, you might want to have some room, depending on what age, range you're in, you're going to want to have some roommates, and there's still tons of options when it comes to that. But this is the fun part about hanging out with you, Dallan, is that we talk about something, I go, oh, let's run down that tangent, but let's get back to the biographical stuff, because it's so interesting. So you had the studio experience that your mentor kind of gave you, and then that somehow transitioned into you working at MI.
Yeah.
So was it a job listing, or how did the MI thing come about?
No, he ran the recording school.
Oh.
And it was 8 students when it first started. It was just a studio. It was a thought by the new owner. And so no one knew, hey, is this even going to take off? And then, the job was then, okay, make this as big and as popular as GIT, all the other ones. So RIT was kind of born, the Recording Institute. And as it grew, and then my mentor couldn't just teach all the classes, because at first he could just teach them all. There's not enough students, you know what I mean? 5 days a week. But then when there's double classes, triple classes, second studio. So for me at that time, like I said, I'm just biding my time, working, as a runner in studios, and just realizing, I'm waiting for better things to happen. And if that didn't happen, I'm pursuing in the studios going, okay, how do I work my way up? I know that's so much harder now. There isn't hey, go to the studio, become a runner, then you'll become an assistant. It's like when I first moved out here, the assistants became 1099. And I was like, wow, if you're an assistant at a studio, back in the day, a big recording studio, you actually know all the gear better than everyone. Because when a producer comes in, they don't need to know that room. They need to be comfortable in the room. When an engineer goes there, they go, oh yeah, I like SSL consoles, let's record there. But if something's wrong with channel 13, the engineer isn't like, well, let me figure it out. Or the producer, who do they look at? Assistant engineer. So you'd have this insane amount of knowledge down to the nuts and bolts of what's going on. Then I found out, that there isn't enough, studios have gone to home studios, so there isn't as much people coming in and working. So they 1099 almost all the assistant engineers. So now you had to know multiple rooms. So one day you're at, a big room like Omni, and then the next day you're over at the tracking room, and you have to know all the problems in all the rooms simultaneously, with them also changing day by day. Something else goes down. And I just thought, wow, I thought I had it tough when I was watching guys doing it. And I thought, man, you have to know. I just had to know one room. And then if there was a second room, they were still in the same studio. I had to know these 2 rooms or 3 rooms. But I would be at that room every day. And when I was a runner, it's that same thing. What can I do above and beyond? And I honestly, I'd have to sit down and think about who instilled that in me. Someone did, because I'm sure that's how it was. But so even when I'm a runner and they're like, hey, just make sure everyone has food or this is clean. Got it. But when I'm done with that, what can I do the next level? Hey, let me go check and see what's going on with the gear, what's working, what's not working. Let me look and see what's always been the complaints and problems, so that if someone does call me up, like next man up, I know, even if I do this patch, it's the right patch, but they've been having troubles with that. Or, I go test cables. Like, oh, that's a bad cable. Why don't I find the bad cable instead of in the middle of recording where someone's, putting their heart and soul on? I go, oh yeah, that's a bad cable.
Yeah.
So it's like, how many things can I do ahead of time so that these things don't come up when it really matters?
And in the modern landscape, I don't hear of a lot of engineers, like you said, being runners or budding engineers. They're not being runners and then going up through the ranks at an established studio. I do think that still happens, because I still hear about it a little bit, but it's very small trickles of stories like that. I've seen a couple of mentor-mentee relationships, but that one is even different, because the mentor's teaching them how to, run everything, how to do the thing, and then they kick clients down to them. So it's almost more like you hired an employee or a protege.
Correct. Protege. That's a really good term for it. Exactly.
And so really what I see the most of right now is people will go to a school like SAE or MI or Full Sail. I think that's in Florida. And then they end up in a music city. They get a live music job. I see a lot of these guys doing live sound. And then when they're not doing that gig, they are being the producer or the engineer in sessions. And then what happens is it inevitably someone's going to make it. One of the different artists that you're working with makes it, and then that might kick you up to the next level. So is that more what you've observed as well? Is that kind of the way it's going?
No, exactly. And it was like a seesaw. Back when I first started, it was like 99%. This is the way. And you heard of people not working their way up the ranks and finding a back door or another path. I think that seesaw is completely tilted, and now it's the other ways around. And really, just to piggyback on what you said, it's like if you're running live sound, my first thing is, and it's exactly what you said, even when I run live sound, I think, does this band need a recording? Not, can I get more money out of them? But is this an opportunity to get a recording? And then that will solidify me more in doing this. Because really the one of the few ways to make that next big jump is, you have to be part of something that isn't something now, that becomes something. Everyone wants to be a part of a big name act. And it's like, well, yeah, but would you put in the time with a no name act and a whole bunch of them? And then when someone goes like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you work with so-and-so, you're like, well, yeah, I actually knew that person before they were anyone. It was, I think it's called Crass. I think, I could be wrong, the conservatory, that was a big one. I could be completely wrong, but there was a recording school, and the kid had worked with the singer from Nickelback before they were Nickelback. And so that was his thing. And he recorded him for, his school project, then stayed with him, became engineer with them. And you go, yeah. But now if you wait for them to become Nickelback and go, I want to be your engineer. Yeah, too late. They've already found their people, their camp. And now the expectation in your background, if you were to kind of jump in and leapfrog, would have to be so much higher. You're not looking for that gig. You're just networking that gig. So it is about seeing all the diamonds in the rough, and most of them, they're lumps of coal. And
not to paint a bleak picture, but like anything else that you want to be great at, there's going to be a lot of challenges along the way, right? Because if you're a new engineer, and again, correct me if I'm wrong here, but if you're a new engineer, the artists that you're working with, even if they're no names, they still want the product to sound like the stuff being pumped out of the best studios in the world by the best engineers and producers.
Because that's what they're listening to, right?
Because that's what they're listening to.
They're listening to. And again, it's nice. Back in the day, you would have to go to a big studio and have a big budget. That's not the case anymore. So now you can't say, well, you're not going to sound like that because we're recording in my home. And they're going to pull up, blogs or whatever going, yeah, but this person tracked in their closet. So I don't want to hear that. I just expect this to be the best it can be. And and you're like, wow. So now I'm not always taking supreme talent and going, oh, I'm just the guy hitting record. I've got to get them to that level and have them understand what they need to do on their end, what I need to do on my end, my shortcomings, their shortcomings. And yes, we have to get better together.
Yeah. And again, that's what I see happening the most, again, is people kind of at the same level in their respective craft, coming together, and then they both get better together. And then, there's going to be one artist that takes you along for the ride with them. Yeah. Or just your name will get mentioned in enough rooms that, a publisher, a label wants you to work alongside their artists more. So I've observed that to be the case as well. But it's hard.
And because we're in the South, someone told me they call it planting seeds. And I was like, what you don't know is when you work with that person. So my weird mentality, you've got to stay on time, on schedule. Like no one wants someone who's always behind or promises and doesn't deliver. But when you say no, you shut that door down and they're going to go somewhere else. Chances are they're not coming back to you because now they have another path to go. But you also shut down who they would have then run into. So you record the one band, and I call it the tree of life with Brett, right? Like, I know you because of Brett. If I wouldn't have met Brett, I would have loved to have met you. I would have loved to have met Jordan, but I can't see how we would have run into each other long enough to have this bond. So it's really important that when you work with the one group, yes, you're not just doing that, then they're going to play it for someone. And what if they play that for someone and they go, hey, who recorded that? Now someone has become your advertisement. So you're right. It's like you've got to do as many of the seed plantings, and that one could epically fail. But it could also 5 years later, something could happen with one member in the band who did something. Like I got a client, it's been 10 years, and he's like, hey, I know it's been a while. Really loved working with you. I'm back in town. Would you like to work? I would have said, due to my old, Illinois, Los Angeles, once I don't talk to a person for about 6 months, they're out of your life forever. What I love here about being in Nashville, nope. The seed is just in the ground, and we're just putting pause. And as soon as we get on the phone and talk, it's like time hasn't even passed. So really important how you represent yourself at all times. And yeah, they're not bridges to be burned. Sometimes it's just the road stops and you go, it may come back again. And so, yeah, you work with as many people as you can, knowing it's not just them, it's who would they run into.
And do this because you love it, right? Because, not to paint a bleaker picture, but one of the things that people discover, and I'll, tee this up with a little story, because it was one of the craziest things that I'd observed was years ago going to LA to a specific studio. I don't want to name just because I don't want it to get traced back, but there was a kid who was being developed by one of the most famous rappers in the world. And that rapper happens to have booked all of the studios at this, very famous place, except for, a few slots that my student had booked. And so anyway, we had to share a snack room, whatever, kitchen with everyone else who's in their sessions during the day. There's just one there. And so this kid who's there during the day, a minor, I'm talking like 13, 14 years old, and he's got an entourage and he's got some big security guards, around him and everything. So that's just painting the picture. This kid says to a 40-year-old man, so a grown man who's the engineer, he says, "Bring me some cookies, B-word." never ever could forget that story because the guy was so angry. He called the owner of the studio to say, "Talk me off a ledge because I'm gonna assault this child." And then you hear stories about again, the hard part of the job. There's always going to be a hard part of the job when making money is involved. You're treated like that. Then also in sessions, if these big rappers or rock artists, whatever, if these big artists don't already have an engineer and you're just the stand-in guy because you're the house engineer or whatever, you're just a button monkey and you're treated that way. You're treated that way. You're not to speak, all those kind of things. So have you had any experiences like that where you are very much, for lack of a better term, kind of the help?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And again, I started out with that as a runner. So it was almost expected and I was younger. But right away, again, my mentor said, let me just paint this picture for you because this is going to happen. You can't take it personally. He was great at showing me how to avoid getting into those situations. Like avoid being in a place where you're like, oh no, you're just going to get piled on here.
Yeah.
And he had this great, not trick, but great way of, you're moving in and out of rooms. You're like, oh, I would walk into a room and just feel like, oh no, they need someone to slag on here. It's not personal, but I'm not a child, but I do have an ego. So it's like, always grab. And there was always a piece of gear. Grab it and go take it like it needs repair. No one bothers you then. So it'd be like, I got to get out of this room. Let them yell at someone else. Let me go ahead and do that. But I knew that mentality is there that, poop runs downhill kind of, But what's great is as a runner, you got it. So then it was like you were desensitized to it. But if you have it later in life or haven't had it throughout your life, it's a shock because you're like, hey, man, you don't need to be treating people this way. And I love how you said he talked to the owner because the owner isn't going to go, you go tell that kid who's paying me tens of thousands of dollars. You go tell him to stick it. It's like, no, he's going to go, sucks to be you. Which is, it's so sad, but true. Yeah.
And I'm sure the owner had his own share of experiences with that. Though I'm sure they ended after a certain point,
my job at one of the studios, a very famous R&B singer, she would bring her dogs with her. My job, clean the poop as the dogs pooped. Right? So I am pooper scooper. Now again, you just, and you just let the dog anywhere. So you're like, my job, and for some reason though, again, only because it's just a great mentor. He's like, this is yet another test. And I went, okay, I'm going to look at it that way versus I didn't sign up to be a pooper scooper.
Yeah.
And I'm a problem solver. So my thing is, hey, how about we don't have any dogs here? Hey, how about we keep the dogs outside? And he already told me, don't try to solve this one. Their solution is you cleaning up the poop. And I was like, okay.
Oh man, that must have been rough though.
And the act of it, not so bad. But then people I admired or people I wanted to look good in front of, all they saw of me for that entire week or 2 weeks or month they were in, that's the pooper scooper. Not the, hey, that guy was actually assisting on the last record. Oh, no, he's cleaning dog poop.
And so that's the nature though of, again, when making money is involved, sometimes you're going to do things that are not the actual job description. I was once reduced to being the babysitter by the executive producer of a project, the babysitter who just needs to make sure that the artist read the lyrics. That was it. And I wasn't yet at a stage where I had dealt with that yet. So I was so offended, and wasn't happy about it, but I was getting paid, so at the end of the day, at least you're still getting paid for what you're doing. But you better love what you do because those moments are going to happen. And the only thing that's going to keep you going is that you love, engineering and for the final product to sound phenomenal. Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that what has kept you going or has it been something else?
Well, that and no other choice. Like, I had
honest answer.
I had a full ride scholarship in Illinois. I was an Illinois State Scholar and then didn't go to college. So both my parents are like, you're out of the house then. So at 18, I'm out of the house, having to live on my own because I am making bad life choices. But I just knew if I have a plan B, I know how hard plan A is going to get, and I'm going to drop to plan B. But if I don't have a plan B, and this is just me, as a parent, I can't recommend this, but it's like, if I don't have a plan B, that's what this is plan A. And so in those bad moments, you go, it's just today, tomorrow will be better. But if I had plan B, I'd go, well, I'm going to be an accountant. Like, I make more money, counting money. And it's like, I can't make any more money doing anything else. So yes, this is my love. This is it to the very end.
You shared one of the low lights, right? Pooper scooper. Sorry, I don't mean to laugh.
Dude, sometimes by hand, like no doggy bag. Just grab it and then clean up whatever it was on.
Oh man, Dallan, I love you, but it just hit me how funny that is. Okay, sorry. Sorry, that just gave me the giggles.
Now watch this. For context, right? Right, I love it. My mentor, and now he has his own, but the one that I always flash back to when I go, and you're so great. You would never say, oh my gosh, I wouldn't. I would go, do you know what his was?
Yeah.
Sorry, one of them, not one.
Yeah.
He had to be on the roof with the guns during the riot. So it was like, they had to make sure people weren't going to come in. And if so, they were going to start shooting. And I was like, I can clean some poop.
Okay. Suddenly, yeah.
I just go, always perspective. Like you said, hey, perspective and context. I go, yeah, okay. Wow, this could go way darker than poop. And I was like, okay.
So these were the LA riots?
Yes.
Oh, man.
He was there then. I came later and missed it. So when he explained it, I thought, I can't even understand what you're thinking of. And you're like, you're stuck in there. The owners are grabbing guns, going to the roof, going, are you going to help? And it's like, yeah, definitely didn't sign up for that.
So this one's crazy, and I know that I've got some younger viewers, so I won't get into detail about it, but there's some very adult things that happen in studios too. And so I heard some crazy stories. I've heard some crazy stories about what goes down from like drugs, substance
sex,
abuse, all that crazy stuff too at studios. So you kind of wonder, like, how do they get anything done with all this other stuff? But going back to your career and your trajectory, I thought it was the coolest thing ever. As a coach, of course, that you wrote a book and wrote curriculum at some point. So how did you get into that?
So with the books, Hal Leonard had approached or had a deal with Musicians Institute, and they were doing all the guitar instructional, and somewhere was like, hey, you guys have a recording school. Again, right place, right time. But I also was like, there was no money up front or anything. There may be residuals. And at first, like the first month, I was like, this is awesome. And then that's it. Because it's books and CDs and, it was DVD. You're just like, oh. But, or actually it was VHS to DVD, But again, taking that extra step to go, yeah, I'll step up and do it. You know what I mean? Just thinking, hey, this could help me. Also, it helps the school, and I didn't see anyone else stepping up to do it. But it's not as if they approached me, hey, Dallan, you're that teacher there at the school. Will you do this? But I thought, yeah, this is something again, it's engineering. It's another, how do I increase my circle kind of thing. Every time I do it, it's like never about money. Just, can I increase the circle? And the money part though is, hey, can I not freak out about paying bills? How can I get away from not doing a job totally unrelated in order to sustain myself? How can I just stay, even if it is, and that is the term, recording adjacent, music adjacent. Yeah. It's like, hey, it's still, I've got to stay in the engineering kind of side to it.
So how did you move to Nashville? What was the impetus for abandoning LA, which is, I'm imagining at the time when you moved, LA was still the hottest city.
But not for me. I was there for 14 years, and the first 5 or 6, trajectory was moving up and up and up, and then it plateaued, probably because of me. I got way more involved in the school, less involved in projects and engineering. But wherever my circles were going, they were not leading me to doing anything more towards the yellow brick road. They were, again, like becoming vice president, going to Japan. I was like, okay, this is all good because it's forward momentum, but these circles aren't connecting with my other circles. And so friends of mine from the school would go down to do sessions in Nashville and then move. And I was like, is it really that good down there? And they're like, listen, it's no longer just have like the old school country. They've brought in kind of almost the pop country. It still really hadn't come in, but it was coming. And there was a lot of work to do. There was a lot of musicianship. So they just said, hey, look, if you grew up in the Midwest and you're a Midwest kid and you're no longer kind of vibing with LA, it's my fault, not LA's fault, then this may be the perfect marriage of, again, finding the circles of people that will, connect with you, but also staying in music. And it was so funny because they're like, hey, man, I have a ton of work down here if you'd move. And again, I'm really solid in running this school. And I go, if you give me work, I'll move down there. And they go, if you move down here, we'll give you work. And I said, if you give me work. And so I just had a leap of faith, pack a U-Haul and just quit and move all within 3 days.
And was this, again, because you became disenchanted with your career trajectory, or?
Two things, and totally honest. I started going, man, I've done this. I've sidetracked. I've gotten so good at something that I went, was my goal ever to run schools? Because that was where I saw, that's where this was going. Whether it would be a different school or whether it would be other locations, I thought, is this joy? And I mean, I always stress about everything, stressing about business and stressing about that. That was a different kind of stress. I would get shoulder pains where I'm thinking like, is this, like I'm young, but it's just like, this isn't the kind of anxiety that at the end of the day, I'm like, wow, I'm so much better that I kind of, thought through all the problems. So half of it was my disenchantment with me going, I stepped too far right and I can't step back. Like I always thought, can I just go back to teaching part-time? And then that's it. Let me go back down the studio path. At this time, 10 years had gone by and it's like, I can't be a runner. And no one's going to go, well, you used to be an assistant here. Sure, just leapfrog and come back in. So I went, I've moved away from the path and we have to start all over here. That's just not going to happen. And the work they were telling about in Nashville is they knew me now as an engineer. I had album credits, so I can start at that level. So I thought, okay, that sounds much better. Yeah, producers have studios. They need help. They need stuff mixed. I was like, this sounds wonderful. So then but it was just quit the thing that's bird in the hand and then go for it.
Man, again, you will go through this. I'm talking to the viewers. Some of you will. A very small percentage of people will get to do exactly what they imagined, that they want to do. Again, name on the marquee or whatever. But most people are going to work in something music adjacent. They're going to discover something that's more fulfilling and go down that path. So it's just such an interesting story to hear that you devoted how much time to teaching in LA?
Yeah. I mean, 14 years?
14 years.
12.
Okay.
Sorry, 12 years.
But yeah, over a decade teaching before you go, okay, something needs to change about this. If you could retain all the life experience that gave you and all the perspective that gave you and go back and do it again, do LA all over again as an engineer, would you do it differently?
Absolutely. But I think LA wasn't for me. And again, nothing wrong with LA. I think what no one ever taught me is, again, coming from a small suburb in Chicago, my mentor was like, you're big fish, small pond. Get in the big pond. And so as soon as I got to LA, it was like, if you fail here, you are a failure. And it's tough to go, you are no one, and now you're going to try to compete with the best of the best. LA, New York, wherever, just the big meccas. And it's like, I've done so much better down here in Nashville. And Nashville is a mecca, and I've never reached the mecca level in Nashville. Way more successful not reaching the mecca in Nashville. In LA, that would not happen. It was really feast or famine. Here in Nashville, for me, it's feast or famine moments. In LA, it was like you're either in the feast or you're out. It wasn't like, hey, I don't have any work for the next 2 days. I'm getting worried about clients. It was like, you just have no more work.
And so the big hotshot engineers in LA at the time, how did they get to that level? Was it that they were a good hang or really skilled at what they did, or what was it that got them there?
Man, and I can't speak for them, but a lot of them, if I'm, some I knew, a lot I didn't know, it would be that same thing of like, hey, work their way up, and then opportunity arose, right place, right time. And sometimes you can just look at it and go, well, yeah, if I was given that opportunity. But then if you can hear how many opportunities didn't happen for them that they treated with the exact same amount of care. You only know them because they work with the big artists, but they're like, here's the 100 artists that I would be, that I would play you for and go like, I'm so embarrassed to even listen to this. But if I didn't do these hundreds, there's no jumping from 1 to 100. I've got to walk up all these steps in order to get there. And again, and then good circles. I can't explain it. I don't know why. Nashville just happens to be a thing, but good circles. And again, I thank you. I thank Brett. It's that for sure. But I think I fit in. And for some reason, no one ever told me if you don't fit in LA, that's okay. Find where you fit in. They were just like either A, go there, and if you can't do it, then obviously quit and do something else. There was no, maybe this isn't right. Like I had opportunities to go overseas a couple times, and I just thought, oh, that's quitting. But then one guy, his name was John, he was like, you're crazy. And I was like, well, what do you mean? He goes, I've been on tour with Janet Jackson, all this. He goes, but I went and did something in South America. That's what led me to the Janet Jackson tour. And I was like, those dots connect? And he's like, yes, it isn't just go here and go, I have to meet the most famous person doing the most famous thing. You find your paths, and it is a crooked road. Yeah. That's why I say you got to love doing it, knowing that you got to treat it like every moment is the most important special day you ever had, even if it is picking up the poop.
Yeah. So you see a lot of the people's highlight moments, right? Especially because in your industry, it's about credits, right? A lot of people care about the credits. They look at the credits. But oftentimes those highlights become kind of the annoying thing for different professionals, because now everyone wants to talk about that one project you worked on 15 years ago. And maybe the next round of things that you've been doing haven't reached that A-list tier. And so no one wants to talk about them, though you're more skilled at your craft. The music sounds even better or whatever. So again, I think that's where the love of the craft sustains you, right? And you do have a couple of really big clients, and I think they've come through a producer, right? Mainly. Yeah. So how did you establish the relationship with that particular producer?
COVID. I hate even saying this, but he had, he was building his studio in his home. He had moved into a new home, really nice, beautiful home, was building his studio, and the guy he had that was helping him with just setting up all the gear. I can use a soldering iron, but you don't want me building your studio. But when it's time to put all the gear in and, make sure everything's there, that's another side thing from schooling, knowing exactly how everything connects. COVID hit, and the guy that he had got ultra paranoid about being even alone by himself in this brand new home where the studio's on its own entire floor. And even the producer was like, I won't even come down there. And he was still like, it just freaked him out too much. So he had reached out to the guy who helped build the studio, the acoustic and the building part. And he said, hey, I'm kind of in a lurch here. Can you help me just finish putting this stuff together? And this guy happened to be one of my students, one of my very good friends. And then he took his engineering that he did when he was my student, and he went more into the acoustic treatment and building. Super hands-on guy, great guy, but he really connects with building things. And so he's like, yeah, I'm your builder, but let me call Dallan. And so when he calls me and he's like, can you go do this? It was like, this isn't what I do. You know what I mean? Like, I don't go and like put, pieces of rack gear and connect cables, but my buddy who helped me with my studio, who I am forever grateful for, and paid, but could never pay enough, just like you. I can never pay you back enough. So if you go, hey, could you do this? The answer is just yes. Not knowing who he's asking me to go see. He just says, hey, he's in alert. He needs to finish it. He's in the middle of working on a project. And I was like, that's all I heard is that he needs my help and someone needs it fast. So I got on the phone with Ben, and Ben's like, yeah, I don't know what you're in the middle of or when you could come over. I'm like, I could be there in an hour. And he was just shocked. And I was like, yeah. So I went over there, set up the studio. It took maybe 6 hours. And then the best part, which never happened in LA, may be my fault. In Nashville, I feel so much more comfortable about talking with people a little bit. Get the work done, but be a person. In LA, it was, hey, tell them your credits. And maybe it's my brain being messed up. Like, don't be friends with them. Try to impress them, you know? But here it was just like, hey, yeah, oh, I love the studio. That's great. I still have no idea who this guy is. Like, I have no idea. So I do all that. And he goes, hey, you know, again, thank you so much. You really helped me. And I said, listen, I would do this 10 times over. My friend Mike has helped me out so much. I love that I'm helping. And he said you were in the middle of something. So absolutely, I know how it is if you're just stuck, especially now with COVID. It's tough to get people to show up in person to things. I just wasn't paranoid about it. I was like, listen, I'm going to go do this. And then he goes, is this what you do? And it's the one time I was like, no, this isn't what I do. And he goes, well, hey, he goes, I need someone to do some editing. He goes, do you do editing? And I was like, yeah. And he goes, well, which instruments do you edit? And I said, I don't understand. He goes, well, yeah, you know, down here, I got a guy who does drums. I got a guy who does the harmonic stuff, so guitars and pianos. I've got a guy who does vocals. And I was like, and it was the best thing. And I got along with him. He's such a great guy. I just said, how about this? You send it to me. I'm going to do it all. If you don't like any of it, I'm taking no money. I am just going to do it. If it doesn't meet to your standard, I'm just not your guy. But what I'm not going to do is say, yeah, I'm better at drums than guitars, or I'm better at vocals, and I'm just going to do it. And then understand that if I'm not up to muster, yep, I wasn't prepared. And when he got it back, he was like, you're my guy. And then it happens to be the Lee Brice record. And I'm just like, I heard the voice when the tracks came over, and I'm like, gosh, it sounds familiar. And again, even though I'm older, it's so amazing when you hear an artist and you hear a song you know it's that artist. Yeah. But when you hear a song you don't know yet, and there's not a track labeled, Lee Brice, then you're just like, gosh, this sounds familiar. And I love that it was like that, because I think the pressure would have freaked me out. I think all the name recognition would have made me go into my head. It was just, this is great music. These are great players, but it was COVID time. So drummer not tracking with bass player, everything was overdubbed. And although these are phenomenal players, hey, we just need to make sure everything sounds more like the band was gelling and they did the takes they needed till they were gelling together. So it was just a right time, right place. But again, going, just say yes to opportunity, help back. And again, it was like, I didn't even ask for money for that. Now, Ben paid me, don't get me wrong, but I was showing up no matter what. There wasn't how much can I make off helping you? It was just, I'm just there. And I don't think, maybe it's just me, but I don't think I could do that somewhere else. Nashville, you just feel, like you said, that sense of community. And then you go, if you're around a good circle of people, and Ben is absolutely in the good to great circle of people, they won't let you down either. They'll take care of you the same way you take care of them. And that's what you guys have always done. Like, Benny, you've just been just wonderful. I don't have to talk about it or think about it. It's like, yeah, I'm going to go above and beyond, and I know you're going to do what you need to do. And it's just like, this is how it should be.
Well, what I tell everyone about you is, like, I'm referring you to Dallan because he's phenomenal at what he does. And then secondly, he's also really nice. And the really nice thing I almost want to put first, but really the most important thing first when it comes to hiring a professional is, are they good at their job? And you're phenomenal at your job. And then you're also phenomenal at teaching people, meeting them where they're at. A lot of engineers don't have a really good bedside manner when it comes to working with artists. And it's it's shocking because no musician performs their best feeling uncomfortable. And that's what a lot of engineers do. And again, some of them are crusty and salty, and they're not old yet. They might be old or young. Some of the young guys are already like that. They just know better, and they're going to make that felt in the session. So again, that does not extract the best performances. That does not make you want to hire the person again. I've been in sessions that were such a nightmare that the engineer is forever fired from ever working with a label's roster of artists. And I mean, that's a fun story for another day because of how nightmarish it was. But again, you're really doing me a favor, and I think I've told you this, because you make me look good because you do your job well, and you teach people. They understand the craft a lot better than everyone who, when you have a positive recording experience, you get the itch, and now you're like, when can I go back again? I want to try this and that. You've got all this different gear. There's all these different potential aesthetics that we could create, different genres that we could do. So you make people fall in love more with their own art by doing your job well, and again, that's what it's all about. The commercial success is amazing, especially if you can start paying some of the bills doing the thing that you love. But I think just falling deeper in love with the art of music in whatever mode you're in, whether it's engineer or guitar player or singer, it's just a really beautiful thing, and so you help foster that in people.
Aww.
And so thank you for doing this, Dallan. I didn't get to ask any of the audio questions that I have for you because there's just not enough time, but if you'll come back and do this again, I'd love to.
If there's any interest, yes. If it's just you and I are just going to hang out and talk, I would do this for hours anyway. If this is of interest to other people as well, I would absolutely love to go deeper.
Well, I've called you a couple of times with questions, like when I discovered room modes, and I go, Dallan, I'm recording acoustic guitar in this room, the studio in my house, and the distance between, the width of the room is 12.8 feet. Oh, well, that happens to be the size of, G2. That's the wave. So I was like, am I playing it wrong? Is it a proximity effect with the microphone? Is it something else? And then I go, then you tell me room modes, that's the size of the wavelength. There's just a resonance of that note in that room. So you'd have to treat, you'd have to do bass traps and stuff. And so anyway, and I love how you put it that one moment. You're like, because I told you, now I can hear the room modes. I can hear the room resonances. And you go, it's kind of like the wardrobe and you just discovered Narnia, isn't it? I go, yes, it is. And now I'm hearing music totally differently because you can hear how the room colors the recording. But anyway, those calls that we've had, I think, have been massively educational for myself, and I know they would be for others as well. So again, let's do this again on recording so that, hopefully you all who are watching could learn something from an absolute expert in the field. Thank you for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.